The courtroom hummed with quiet tension as Jae-won Park stood before Judge William Richardson. Her dark eyes remained calm, her posture straight and professional. The early morning sunlight filtered through tall windows, casting long shadows. Across the polished wooden floor, Judge Richardson shuffled papers, his thick glasses perched on the edge of his nose. He looked like a man who had spent decades deciding the fates of countless individuals, his weathered hands moving methodically across the legal documents spread before him. Jae-won wore a navy blue blazer that spoke of precision and discipline. Her credentials were tucked neatly inside a slim leather folder, but she had not yet presented them. The room felt heavy with unspoken expectations. "Ms. Park," the judge began, his voice carrying a tone of mild irritation, "your recent investigation methods appear to be unconventional." He emphasized the last word, making it sound like an accusation. She remained silent, allowing him to continue. Her training as a private investigator had taught her the value of listening, of understanding the full context before responding. The case involved a complex corporate investigation. Jae-won had been tracking a series of financial irregularities in a multinational technology corporation. Her methods had been meticulous, her evidence carefully collected over months of careful observation and strategic data gathering. Judge Richardson pulled out several documents, his fingers tapping against a thick manila folder. "Your approach suggests multiple potential violations of standard investigative protocols," he stated, his eyes narrowing behind the thick lenses. A slight breeze moved through the courtroom, making the legal documents flutter slightly. Jae-won noticed how the judge's hands trembled almost imperceptibly, a sign of age perhaps, or something more. The room contained several observers. A court stenographer sat in the corner, her fingers moving rapidly across a digital transcription device. Two junior legal assistants sat near the back, their notebooks open, watching the proceedings with quiet interest. Jae-won knew this moment was crucial. Her entire professional reputation hung in the balance. Years of training, countless hours, of fieldwork, and her reputation as a top-tier investigator were about to be tested by this single interaction. The judge continued reviewing documents, occasionally muttering under his breath. Each rustle of paper seemed to increase the tension in the room. Jae-won remained perfectly still, her breathing steady, her mind already mapping out potential responses. Her background was impressive, though not something she would boast about. Born to middle-class parents in Seoul, she had worked hard to become one of the most respected private investigators in her field. Her reputation was built on results, not words. Judge Richardson looked up, his gaze direct and challenging. "You have some explaining to do, Ms. Park," he said, his tone suggesting he had already made up his mind about her case. Little did he know, Jae-won had been preparing for this moment. Her investigation was far more complex than the simple documents suggested. She carried evidence that would not just defend her actions, but potentially expose a much larger issue. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath. The air felt thick with anticipation, like a storm waiting to break. Jae-won's hand rested lightly on her leather folder, ready to present her case. Her mind was calm, her strategy clear. She would let the judge speak, would listen carefully. And then she would reveal exactly what she had discovered during her months-long investigation. Outside the courtroom windows, the city moved quietly. Cars passed, pedestrians walked, completely unaware of the significant moment unfolding within these walls. For Jae-won, everything depended on the next few minutes. Judge Richardson cleared his throat, preparing to deliver what he clearly thought would be a decisive judgment against her. His fingers adjusted his glasses, a small gesture that betrayed a hint of nervous energy. Jae-won watched and waited, her professional composure a shield against any potential criticism. She knew her work spoke for itself, and soon everyone in this room would understand exactly why. The hearing was about to truly begin. As Judge Richardson began to speak, Jae-won slowly opened her leather folder. Her movements were deliberate, calculated, drawing the attention of everyone in the courtroom. The leather made a soft sound as it opened, revealing a stack of carefully organized documents. The judge paused, his words hanging in the air. Something in J1's calm demeanor, suggested this was more than a simple defense. Her fingers traced the edge of the top document, a subtle gesture that spoke of confidence. "I have documentation," she said simply, her voice clear and steady. The court stenographer's fingers hovered over her keyboard. The two legal assistants leaned forward, their earlier casual attitude replaced by genuine curiosity. Judge Richardson adjusted his glasses. "Documentation of what exactly?" he asked, a hint of challenge in his voice. J1 spread the first set of documents across the table. Financial records, communication logs, and encrypted digital trails began to tell a story far more complex than the judge had anticipated. Each page revealed a layer of a massive corporate conspiracy. Money transfers between shell companies, hidden bank accounts, and suspicious communication patterns emerged. The documents showed a network of financial manipulation that stretched across multiple continents. The judge's initial irritation began to transform into something else. Confusion mixed with a growing sense of professional interest. These were not the documents of a careless investigator, but of a meticulous professional. "These transfers," J1 explained, pointing to a series of complex financial transactions, show a systematic approach to money laundering. Her finger moved precisely from one document to another, creating a narrative of financial crime. The room grew quiet. Even the air seemed to stand still as she continued her presentation. Each piece of evidence was carefully linked, creating a chain of proof that was both elegant and devastating. Judge Richardson leaned forward. His earlier dismissive attitude had completely disappeared, replaced by a look of professional respect. The documents before him were not just evidence. They were a masterclass in investigative work. J1 explained how she had tracked the money. Digital footprints, communication patterns, hidden bank transfers, each piece of evidence carefully collected and documented. Her investigation had been months in the making, a patient unraveling of a complex financial crime. The two legal assistants exchanged looks of amazement. This was no ordinary case. This was a significant exposé of corporate corruption. "How long have you been investigating this?" the judge asked, his voice now completely changed. The tone was no longer accusatory, but genuinely curious. 18 months, J1 responded. Careful, methodical tracking of financial movements across 3 different corporate entities. Each document told a story. Money moved through shell companies disguised as legitimate business transactions. But J1 had found the connections, had followed the digital trail that most investigators would have missed. The court stenographer's fingers moved rapidly, capturing every word. This was becoming less of a hearing about investigative methods and more of a revelation of a major financial investigation. Judge Richardson studied the documents, his earlier judgment completely forgotten. Professional respect had replaced his initial skepticism. He recognized the skill, the patience, the incredible detail of her work. "These corporations," he said slowly, "they have no idea you've uncovered this." J1 allowed herself a small professional smile. "Not yet," she responded. The confrontation had transformed. What began as a potential disciplinary hearing had become something else entirely. J1 had not just defended herself, she had revealed a massive investigation that would likely change everything. Outside, the city continued its normal rhythm. Traffic moved, people walked, completely unaware of the significant moment unfolding in this courtroom. For J1, this was just another day of professional work. The documents lay spread across the table, a testament to months of careful investigation, patient tracking, and professional excellence. Judge Richardson looked up, a new respect in his eyes. The confrontation was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. The revelation unfolded like a carefully planned chess move. J1's documents continued to paint a complex picture of corporate deceit that reached far beyond anyone's initial expectations. Judge Richardson studied the papers, his glasses sliding down his nose. Each page revealed another layer of an intricate financial conspiracy. Money moved through invisible channels, corporations connected in ways that seemed almost impossible to trace. "These transactions," he muttered, "they connect 3 different planetary systems." J1 nodded. Her investigation had taken her through digital landscapes most investigators would never understand. She had tracked digital money trails that seemed to vanish and reappear like ghosts. The courtroom felt different now. The initial tension had transformed into something more profound. Professional respect hung in the air, replacing earlier assumptions and judgments. Her evidence showed how major technology corporations were moving billions through complex financial networks, shell companies, hidden bank accounts, and sophisticated digital transfer systems created a maze of financial manipulation. One document revealed a connection between a technology firm based on Earth and two corporate entities operating in off-world colonies. The money trail was invisible to most, but Jae-won had found the connections. "How did you track these transfers?" the judge asked, genuine curiosity replacing his earlier skepticism. Jae-won explained her method. Advanced digital forensics, pattern recognition algorithms, and months of patient tracking had revealed the hidden networks. She had used techniques that pushed the boundaries of traditional investigation. The two legal assistants listened intently. This was more than a simple financial investigation. This was a masterclass in modern investigative techniques. Each document told a story of corporate manipulation. Money moved through digital channels, disguised and redirected, but Jae-won had followed every single transaction, mapping out a complex financial ecosystem. Judge Richardson realized something significant was happening. This was not just about investigating a single corporation. This was about exposing a systemic approach to financial fraud that spanned multiple planetary systems. The court stenographer's fingers moved rapidly, capturing every detail. Her digital device recorded a revelation that would likely change everything. Jae-won's investigation showed how corporations were exploiting legal loopholes. They moved money through complex digital networks, creating financial structures that seemed impossible to trace. But she had found the connections. "These corporations have no idea," the judge said slowly, "that you've uncovered their entire network." A small professional smile crossed Jae-won's face. "Not yet," she responded. The revelation continued to unfold. Each document was a piece of a larger puzzle. Corporate connections that seemed random were actually part of a carefully constructed financial strategy. One document showed a transfer of funds that moved through 6 different digital accounts in less than 3 seconds. Another revealed a communication network that connected corporate leaders across different planetary systems. The courtroom felt charged with energy. What had started as a simple hearing had transformed into something much larger. Jae-won had not just defended her investigative methods, she had exposed a massive financial conspiracy. Judge Richardson looked up, a new understanding in his eyes. This was no ordinary investigation. This was a professional achievement that would likely change how corporate financial investigations were conducted. The legal assistants exchanged looks of amazement. They were witnessing something extraordinary, a revelation that would likely make headlines across multiple planetary systems. Jae-won remained calm. For her, this was simply another day of professional work. Years of training, patience, and technological expertise had led to this moment. The documents continued to tell their story. A complex network of financial manipulation, carefully hidden but now exposed. Each page was a testament to Jae-won's incredible investigative skills. Outside, the city continued its normal rhythm. People moved about their daily lives, completely unaware of the significant moment unfolding in this courtroom. The revelation was complete, and it was just the beginning. The courtroom transformed into something more than a legal space. It became a stage where professional reputation would be decided in moments. Judge Richardson stood up, his earlier confidence completely shattered. Jae-won's evidence was not just compelling, it was revolutionary. Her investigation had uncovered a financial conspiracy that reached beyond simple corporate fraud. Government communication devices began lighting up around the room. Digital messages flickered on screens, confirming the authenticity of Jae-won's documentation. Her careful investigation had triggered multiple high-level alerts. "These documents," the judge said slowly, "they're verified by 3 separate governmental agencies." Jae-won remained calm. Her professional training had prepared her for exactly this moment. Years of careful work, months of patient tracking, and weeks of strategic documentation were now coming together. A communication device on the judge's desk started buzzing. An official from the Galactic Financial Oversight Bureau was requesting direct communication. The urgency in the digital message was clear. The two legal assistants watched in silent amazement. What had started as a routine hearing had transformed into something extraordinary. J1 was not just defending herself, she was exposing a massive financial network. Judge Richardson's hands shook slightly as he reviewed the additional confirmations. Government seals and digital signatures verified every single document J1 had presented. Her investigation was not just valid, it was groundbreaking. "You've been tracking this network for how long?" he asked, his voice now filled with respect. 18 months, J1 responded. Her voice remained steady, professional, without a hint of personal pride. The court stenographer continued recording, her digital device capturing every moment of this unexpected turn of events. Each word, each gesture was now part of an official record. Outside the courtroom windows, the city continued its normal rhythm. People walked, cars moved, completely unaware of the significant moment unfolding inside. Government confirmations continued arriving. Digital messages verified J1's investigation, showing connections between corporate networks that most investigators would never have discovered. Her work was not just accurate, it was exceptional. The judge's earlier intention to fine her had completely disappeared. Instead, he was looking at her with a mixture of professional respect and genuine admiration. "These corporations," he said, studying the documents, "have no idea you've mapped their entire financial network." J1 allowed herself a small, professional smile. Her investigation had been carefully constructed, each piece of evidence meticulously collected and verified. The vindication was complete. What had started as a potential disciplinary hearing had transformed into a moment of professional recognition. J1 had not just defended her methods, she had demonstrated an extraordinary level of investigative skill. Government officials began requesting direct copies of her investigation. Digital messages flooded the courtroom, each confirming the significance of her work. Judge Richardson walked around the table, extending his hand. The gesture was more than a simple formality. It was a recognition of professional excellence. "Your work," he said, "is exceptional." J1 shook his hand, her grip firm and confident. Years of training, countless hours of work, and an unwavering commitment to professional excellence had led to this moment. The courtroom felt different now. The initial tension had completely transformed. What remained was a sense of profound, professional respect. The legal assistants looked at J1 with a mixture of amazement and admiration. They were witnessing something extraordinary, a moment where professional skill had completely changed the narrative. Government communication devices continued to buzz. Each message confirmed what was already clear. J1's investigation was not just valid, it was significant. The vindication was complete, and it was just the beginning of something much larger. The consequences of J1's investigation spread quickly. Within hours, government agencies began moving against the corporate networks she had exposed. Digital alerts flashed across multiple communication systems. Corporate headquarters in 3 different planetary systems suddenly found themselves under intense scrutiny. Executives who thought themselves untouchable now faced complete professional destruction. Judge Richardson had become J1's unexpected ally. His public acknowledgement of her investigative skills changed everything. What had started as a potential disciplinary hearing was now a landmark moment in corporate investigation. History.news networks picked up the story. Her face appeared on digital screens across multiple planetary systems. The quiet, professional investigator had become an overnight sensation. But J1 remained unchanged. Her focus was on the work, not the attention. Government financial. Oversight teams began dismantling the corporate networks she had tracked. Each digital transfer, each hidden account became evidence. Billions of illegal funds were frozen. Corporate leaders were called for questioning. "This investigation," one senior government official stated, "will change how we track corporate financial movements forever." J1 continued her work as if nothing had happened. Her office remained the same, organized, precise, focused on the next investigation. Fame meant nothing to her. Professional excellence was her only goal. The corporations tried to fight back. Legal teams assembled, preparing complex defense strategies. But J1's documentation was too precise, too carefully constructed. Every attempt to challenge her investigation failed. 3 major technology corporations saw their leadership collapse within weeks. Executives who had believed themselves untouchable now faced serious legal consequences. Billions in illegal funds were traced, tracked, and seized. Judge Richardson became an unexpected champion of her work. He spoke at legal conferences, describing her investigation as a masterclass in modern investigative techniques. His earlier skepticism had been completely transformed. Government training academies began using her investigation as a primary case study. Young investigators studied her methods, her patience, her incredible attention to detail. She became a professional role model. The financial world changed. Corporate leaders now understood that no financial network was truly hidden. The days of invisible money transfers were over. J1 received multiple professional awards, but she accepted them with the same calm professionalism she approached every investigation. The work was what mattered, not the recognition. Her parents watched from their home in Seoul, proud of their daughter's incredible achievement. Years of hard work, years of dedication had led to this moment. The consequences extended beyond simple financial investigation. Her work showed that professional skill, patience, and technological expertise could expose even the most complex corporate networks. Government agencies from multiple planetary systems requested her expertise. Training programs, special investigation units, financial oversight teams all wanted her insights. But J1 remained focused. Each new investigation was an opportunity to learn, to grow, to understand complex financial networks. The corporate world had changed. No longer could executives believe they were above investigation. No longer could they hide behind complex digital transfer systems. Judge Richardson's court had become the starting point of a massive professional transformation. What had begun as a simple hearing had changed everything. Her investigation showed that one person, with skill, patience, and dedication, could make a significant difference. The complex corporate networks that had seemed untouchable were now exposed. News networks continued covering her story. But J1 ignored the attention. For her, the work was what mattered. Each investigation was an opportunity to make a difference. The consequences of her work would be felt for years to come. Corporate leaders would remember this moment. The day a single investigator exposed their hidden networks. J1 returned to her office. Another investigation waited. Another complex network needed to be understood. For her, this was not an ending. This was just another beginning. The financial world had changed, and J1 Park was the reason why.